16, 1 plus 5 is 6. Now, this on the left-hand side of the screen is from the principal propaganda mill for the entire genetics industry. It's called the Dr.Len DNA Learning Center. And it's sponsored largely by Rockefeller University and Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories, the initial home for the eugenics racial hygiene movement. And this is from the 2002 annual report. Interestingly enough, you've got a skull and you've got a bones. And here you've got the X, which is a 6, and you've got the skull and bones. So is there a relationship between the skull and bones depicted here, or what's called the Jolly Roger, and the skull and bones fraternity, and even the Union Jack on the British flag with the global genetic controllers? And to answer that question, let me go back and give you some of the Holy Blood, Holy Grail information that overlaps this investigation that I've conducted. Jacques de Molay, you might remember, the Grand Master of the Knights Templar in the late 12th century, is seen here wearing his red cross. The original Jolly Roger. This is the source, the origin of the Jolly Roger, or the Red Cross. Red Cross symbol also associated with American Red Cross, Rockefeller. Of course, you had your German Nazis at the end of World War II giving American Red Cross identifications to get them through Project Paperclip out of Nazi Germany. Rockefellers and the Dulles brothers were on top and in charge of all of that. Today you have, through not only vaccinations, the great plagues being spread, but also through the contaminated blood supplies that, thanks again to the Rockefeller-controlled blood banksters, the international blood banksters, I call them, are doling out hepatitis viruses in the contaminated blood, prion diseases, virtually you name it, they've spread it through the blood, HIV/AIDS included. So the original Red Cross symbol, or Jolly Roger, Jolly Roger, the symbol was first used by a French order of militant monks known as the Poor Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, later known as the Knights Templar. The Templars were originally pious men. They were also ferocious warriors, pitching themselves into the midst of their enemies astride charging war horses. They were fully anointed because they were privy to the sacred, secreted knowledges. They were spiritually purified themselves and uplifted themselves. I have no doubt they were probably good guys doing good things at that time. Against incredible odds, they fought like men possessed, either prevailing in their cause or suffering death under the banner of Golgotha, the place of the skull where their Christ died, symbolized by the Red Cross. They were initially dedicated to the protection of travelers and pilgrims of all religions, though they themselves were Christians. They were great statesmen. Here's the history of American politics today and global politics. Politically adept economic traders. They were allied with the great sailor, that's the Navy fraternity, that had created a worldwide trading empire in Phoenician times. They became immensely powerful because of this, had the largest fleet and the most successful banking system of Europe. That is where we have the origins of today's powerful banksters. They were eventually driven from the Holy Land by Saladin. Their Muslim adversaries. Now you begin to understand the long history of Muslim versus Christian warfare, or Judeo-Christian versus Muslim warfare. They continue to fight for their cause in the high seas and elsewhere. Today, the United States Navy, in several of my books already, from emerging viruses on to this new one, DNA, shows that the Navy, United States Navy, is central to America's worst devil doing on every level, whether it's biological weaponry, whether it's nuclear tests, whether it's energy, electromagnetic frequency, types of experimentation for population control. You always see the most highest levels of the Navy and the Navy officials being involved. The Templars retreated then to their Mediterranean island bases on Cyprus, Rhodes, and Sicily, and then together with the Order of St. John, later named the Knights of Malta, which again we showed you in the book Emerging Viruses, there were numerous of Nazis, highest level SS Gestapo, some of Hitler's worst, or he considered them his finest, Knights of Malta members. They remained the foremost maritime powers in the Mediterranean, continuing to effectively wage war on Muslim shipping while conducting world trade. The Templars were very powerful then when jealousy and covetousness reigned in the early 14th century. Philip IV, who was deeply in debt to the order, had seen their treasures stored in Paris. So the guy's in debt to them, sees how wealthy they are, decides to declare war on them along with Pope Clement V. And they began to ruthlessly suppress the order, especially they began to attack on Friday, October the 13th, the reason for which Friday the 13th has become known as an unlucky day. Arrests, torture, false accusations, executions followed. Now, a large number of the Templars escaped that day to an uncertain future where the outcome of which is being manifested socioeconomically, politically today. They found refuge abroad. Indeed, they did. On the eve of the arrest, the entire Templar fleet with all the glorious treasure vanished from the port of La Rochelle, carrying with it a vast fortune. Now all this fortune was wanted, and the Templars were wanted by the Pope and all the crowns of Europe. And from that time on, the Templars became viewed as pirates. Pirates. The Templars finally found sanctuary in Scotland, where Templar graves bear witness to them having lived and died there in the 14th century. King Robert the Bruce had no interest in persecuting the order. In fact, to the contrary, he took advantage of their fugitive status, offering them asylum in return for their help in his war for independence against King Edward II of England. There is evidence that the Templar fleet had traveled here to North America in 1398 with the Sinclairs, almost 100 years before Columbus, whose boat also heralded the same red cross on its sail. Some settled there. The Sinclairs, or St. Clair's Castle near Edinburgh, was situated next to Rosslyn Chapel, which was constructed by the Sinclairs according to the floor plan, which is in the Bible, of Solomon's original temple. Now, throughout Scotland, as well as within Rosslyn Chapel, there are carvings and tombstones dating back to the 15th, 16th, and 17th century, using combinations